Ahoy, damy a panowie, jestem stracny, ditia 14 gisids, and welcome back to the ZP Parody Variety Hour. Now everyone knows what game comes next in the sequence after 1, London, 2, 3, Florida, California tri-state areas. Aren't you also supposed to go 2.5, 2 3/4, and Florida and a half? No, because this is my show and I'm skipping them. What am I supposed to say anyway? An attempted demake of 3 with smooth gameplay despite a choppy frame rate, and a protagonist that might actually be Michael DeSanta. Next GTA 3 with a brighter color scheme, and we have motorcycles now with a little Pulp Fiction feel to it as well. Followed by more Vice City, except the protagonist is more reasonable and wants to get out of the drug trade. He loses his love, and Lance has an arc from nerdy-looking homebody to 80s drug dealer. Oh, you'd love for me to stick to the 3D universe, wouldn't you? With its power fantasy story arcs and its array of characters that we know and love. No, I'm moving on into the next one, GTA 4. And I know what someone's going to say, probably before I'm done praising and retroactively blowing off the mobile titles.
Yahtzee did a video on this.
Well, Yahtzee didn't finish the video game before he made that video, and I did, and it's interquels, so prepare yourself for a long one. What Yahtzee said, in so many words, was that the game featured boring intros, cops too easy to get away from, first quarter of the game was all tutorials, incredibly long gameplay time, when it gets going it's really good, ancillary sandbox entertainment bits were weird, the friend system was weirdly done, and gritty realism up the ass. And while all of this is true, and I have no direct rebuttals, I have a few more things for it to shove up its ass. Now, roughly 4 years after GTA 4's release, I first got into the series with GTA 3, right as hype for GTA 4 was dying out. I might have arrived to the party late, but by late 2013, I had sampled the 2.5D era enough to know what was going on, played through the 3D generation, and a demake, and I felt I was more than proto-hipster enough to take it head on. While the world was just about to get their fat, air-conditioned hands on GTA 5, I was going to see what happened to Claude after winning the city. To the Leone family without Salvatore. I was going to build up a whole new criminal empire and possibly go toe-to-toe with Claude's speed in the city I'd come to know so well. So I fired up the game, gave my cousin the slip, and my first thoughts, wow, look at what they did to Liberty City. And my second thought, what the fuck have you done to Liberty City? Yes, it appears my aspirations to become a proto-hipster had come back to shove a few things in me this time. The city was now in HD, gritty and colorful enough to show pseudo New York in all of its glory. However, after opening up the in-game map, I realized that instead of modeling the countryside, adding in more island districts, or adding in more landmarks, this was a totally new version of not New York. As I played on further, there was no mention of any of the previous crime families or mention of an allegedly mute man being the most feared person in Liberty City. But looking around, I saw tons of posters, doodads, and all kinds of Easter eggs to the previous games in the series. Even a whole street painted with GTA 3 artworks. After looking it up, I came to find out that at some infant stage of development, they were thinking of HD-ifying and adding to the 3D era city. But after several revisions, what we ended up with is a new city, jam-packed with Easter egg nods to the previous series, and Rockstar apparently has a headcanon that all the previous characters died when Zaibatsu no longer needed free-range maniacs do their dirty work, or something. There are these graffiti scribblings you can find scrawled on walls in random places throughout the city, one of them just outside of Roman's first apartment, and it's a schizophrenic shrine to the protagonist's past. On one, I could just make out what looks like Rip Claude. Really? Rockstar? Claude Speed braved the 2.5 dimension to make it to the 3D universe, and then what? In some game we never saw, Claude threw a kegger, invited Phil Cassidy and Joey Leone, all their known associates, and fired up the dimension hopping machine, and then they all slowly died one by one in this universe because they couldn't process HD oxygen? No wonder why he never talked in GTA 3. Just getting used to 3D oxygen must have been a nightmare. Okay, so Rockstar pulled a DC multiverse, again. No reason to judge them for that. I'll just judge them based on the slew of other things. I haven't looked into the source code, but I think in GTA 4, a ton of objects are physics objects all the time, 24/7. More to the point, I think everything is the same kind of physics object. Don't take my word for it, though. But going from the swift, well-balanced CJ, or CJ Ritchie, to GTA 4, Nico Bellic's movement speed, acceleration, and supposed weight feels sluggish and heavy like a fat man carrying sacks of bricks, which is just so natural when you're playing as an underweight former soldier. It's just so natural that cars have just too far a turning radius, and cameras now stare directly at the back of your car like a track racing game, instead of the proper angle to see the road like in every other 3D GTA title ever. Also, a few of the cars will go into a drift as soon as you hit the handbrake, despite going, what, 5 miles an hour? You know what else feels natural? Dark and gritty realism in Grand Theft Auto. Now, everything Yahtzee has ever said on the subject still stands, and it isn't like GTA can't do dark and gritty, but I think the point is all the more compounded by the fact that new Liberty City is packed with references and attitudes meant to lampoon the real world. I honestly can't tell if it's distracting or just another layer of flavor text when entire droves of people can't seem to find peace or happiness, and yet every other part of society doesn't seem to care or even notice, because they're all too busy buying into franchises and staring at cups of coffee all day. Meta-narrative? What the hell is that? That's kind of the problem, though. The main problem that I have with GTA 4 Volume 1 is that it's trying to be mafia. Everything, even the crazy bits, seem to lead into more taciturn, gritty consequences, until it doesn't anymore because people are jerks and you should just look after you and yours. But we all know where that thinking leads, don't we? An even more taciturn, gritty ending sequence. It's both a mixed message and a jarring shift in tone. Not that GTA isn't already packed with mixed messages. Since GTA 3, they've aspired to have some kind of anti-drug message. In 3, you were fighting a drug addict and the spread of a new drug called Spank. But you could always pick up pills off the streets like M&M's dropped by the drunken sandbox fairy. Gee, I wonder why they called him Claude Speed. In Vice City, Tommy never took drugs, but certainly trafficked a lot of them. Well, as long as you don't count being poisoned by a Haitian voodoo priestess and a Vietnam War vet. No joke, that actually happens. And CJ was also sober as long as he had a choice in the matter. In all the previous titles, and in a little of GTA 4, the message has been tough situations must be met with violence and criminal aspirations. The message of GTA 4 Volume 1 on the whole: crime does not pay. Nico's story starts out, he gets off the boat, and we see some diamonds being baked into a cake for no reason at all. We learn through endless talkie bits brought up piecemeal throughout the game that Nico was a soldier from Yugoslavia, but his whole regiment was ambushed, leaving 2 other possible survivors, and he's been on the warpath to find out which one of them was a traitor. He took up some smuggling job with a crime family, pulled a Major Han Solo, and eventually made it to Liberty City to continue the hunt. And I'm not Russian! Nico's journey after that is a little grit-tastic, but I do commend Rockstar for trying to put together an original story centered around original characters, rather than put together another bunch of vignettes around a violent straight man. So from here, Nico confronts Roman about his lies, kills off a lone shark, makes nice with the Russian mafia, and finally sets up shop on the next island. From that point onward, the game gets really amazingly good, like Yahtzee said. But, just to elaborate, the first quarter of the game is almost all tutorial missions, and not the well-designed tutorial missions from 5, wherein you learn maybe 4 mechanics at a time on the way to cause more mayhem. Here, there's a single mission for 1 or 2 mechanics at a time. It gets a little interesting later on, but I already know how a storefront works. I already understand the concept of using a cell phone. Oh, you set up a gay blind date so we could steal a car from a gay guy. Well, at least that's 2 concepts down. My cousin's muscle car friend is gay and a pathological liar. Got it. While the tutorials were boring, I actually didn't mind the hanging out with friends system. It was something else to do if I wasn't feeling like tearing New Liberty a new speed hole, and it afforded favors and bonuses from people with whom you're best friends. It's just the game keeps trying to crowbar in these unwindy sequences whenever the game feels like you've been having too much excitement. What really surprised me was how reactive many of these missions really were. Some of them even end with a mini moral choice. Only the final 3 levels really carry a large amount of weight for the story ending, but most moral choices, if there is one, just end the mission with whatever you feel is best or worst to do, potentially affecting the world in numerous ways. Not terribly reactive, that, but it's still sad that GTA 4 still can out-RPG some modern RPGs, and so, after tying up all the loose ends with the Russians, the new leader turns out to be a violent snake and hands you over to Nico's Jabba the Hutt that he done soloed. Nico moves into the next safe house, and from here the game begins proper, as Nico goes on a rampage just getting bumped from organization to organization to do stealing and murdering for each one. He rubs shoulders with the Liberty City Underground, crosses paths with a biker and a resourceful doorman, all in his quest for revenge. He ends up working for an auto theft ring, some drug dealers, the Irish Mafia, some new school OG type and his ex-con friend. Then Nico ends up working for the not CIA and infiltrating the actual Mafia. The final fifth of the game is helping Powerful Man A kill Loose Ends X, and then getting bumped up to Power Man B, killing Loose Ends Y, and possibly killing Power Man A at some point. Repeat. Finally, after strategically executing the clusterfuck of back alley deals gone wrong, the not CIA people fly in Nico's intended target, and you need to choose either to kill him or let him go free. After this, Dmitri, the Russian snake, brokers a deal between the Mafia and some other associates he decided to screw over, and the final ending is decided based upon whether you choose to rob these people for the Mafia, or say screw it and kill Dmitri Reskalov anyway. But in the end, at least one beloved character will always die, and we will all learn that crime does not pay. It's not terrible, certainly impressive to look at, and it shows a little originality, but it's also overlong, gritty. The beginning is packed with so much boring and ancillary bullshit that it's practically impenetrable, and getting used to the controls is paint-guzzlingly awkward. Face it, adding a physics engine doesn't make things instantly better, and when the dynamics don't feel natural, you change them. Change the weight or coefficients of a single type of object or character, so that way we don't feel like we're playing as a drunken fat man. There's more I could bring up, like the diamond plot device that goes nowhere, forcing wall cover mechanics into a sandbox game with a perfectly useful crouch button, looting clothing skins takes an unbearable length of time, or how about the one car racing mission that will fail you out of nowhere for being too good at driving? Yeah, there was this one mission that I kept failing because apparently I was supposed to get there seconds after the guy I was supposed to be meeting. So why was this a race at all? Just put down an objective marker. Also, I can understand not adding in jetpacks. With these controls, you'd probably scoot forward by leveling up Nico's fart stats, but you didn't add planes in again, Rockstar. I mean, are you still nervous about 9/11 or something? There's one airport, several places where you could have added landing strips or aircraft carriers, and no planes. But we have a ton of high-speed helicopters, but we couldn't fit an airstrip in among this city. Yeah, that's why you add it. Or don't clutter up potential landing spaces with more buildings and debris. Oh, what do you know? The city's too small to add planes. Vice City had amphibious planes, and it was half of, if not a third the size of this. Well, it wouldn't be fun to... Nope, you're totally right. Can't imagine having fun with this. That's why there's like 40 mods for this exact thing. Look, the game gets better later on. There's so much to do, so many of the friends and Easter eggs are so memorable, I find myself coming back to it years later just to take in the city, and take a few friends out for movies and a drink. Also, there's a way to unlock Claude Speed's clothes if you decide to kill the drug kingpin rather than his reformed gang member friend. Just a shame that loading new outfits is unbearably long, but it's so sluggish and try-hardy most of the time that I find it hard to call it a Grand Theft Auto game. More like Mafia 1 if it was heavy 4 times as long and the city was a million times more detailed. That is, until...